Welcome back. This just in, brand new reporting from the New York Times. A handful of Republican senators attempted to stop President Trump from firing the U.S. ambassador to the European Union, Gordon Sondland, who, of course, was a key House impeachment witness. Fired Friday along with Sondland, another impeachment witness, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, a Purple Heart recipient, and the top Ukraine expert at the National Security Council. He was escorted out of the White House. His twin brother, by the way, a National Security Council attorney, was also fired. A good time to talk with former White House counsel to former President Richard Nixon and current CNN contributor John Dean. John, GOP senators asking the president not to fire Sondland, but he did it anyway. What does that tell you about what may lie ahead with possible revenge from this president?
Well, it certainly tells us he won't listen to any good advice from anybody. That's just something that if his gut tells him, I want revenge, he's going to pursue it. He was told earlier with people like Andrew McCabe, don't fire him. He was on his last day before he retired, and he fired him, so he couldn't get his pension. We're seeing the same sort of thing with Vindman, who had announced he was departing and left. So the fact that others stood up for Sondland, who didn't want to be part of the exodus after the testimony, shows very poor judgment.
You personally were the Watergate whistleblower who went before Congress and you helped bring down a presidency. If congressional Republicans had shrugged off what you revealed and President Nixon had stayed in office, what do you think that would have meant for your fate?
Well, Nixon actually asked for my letter of resignation, knowing I had told him very openly I was going to cooperate with the prosecutors, which troubled him deeply for understandable reasons. Yeah. I also told my colleagues that they should get lawyers because of what I was going to say. They didn't listen to me, and Nixon was afraid of me at that point. It really kind of surprised me that he backed off and waited till I told him I wouldn't leave voluntarily until Haldeman, the chief of staff, and Ehrlichman, his top domestic advisor, also left because they were part of his problem. And so I'm looking at this situation. We have another authoritarian president, just like Nixon. Nixon was an authoritarian behind closed doors. Trump is an authoritarian in the Rose Garden, where he sells himself on that. So I think what's going to happen in the future is that Trump is just going to cut a wide swath. He's going to try to go after people like Adam Schiff, which is going to be very hard to reach. He's in a safe congressional district. But Trump is talking to people about what he can do to someone like Schiff and others who were involved in the impeachment process.
Well, look what he's doing to Romney as well, who voted, of course, to convict on the one article of impeachment. We also have a U.S. official telling CNN that Sondland was more or less a dead man walking after statements like this.
Everyone was in the loop. It was no secret. Everyone was informed via email on July 19th, days before the presidential call.
And Vindman's lawyer put out a very powerful statement saying, quote, Lieutenant Colonel Vindman was asked to leave for telling the truth. His honor, his commitment to right, frightened the powerful. Truth is not partisan. If we allow truthful voices to be silenced, if we ignore their warnings, eventually there will be no one left to warn us. Watergate, of course, led to a generation wanting to be the next Woodward and Bernstein. What will be the result after watching, what would be the result after watching how those who came forward have been treated?
Well, I suppose some will be reluctant to certainly go forward publicly, but the leaks, Anna, are going to continue, and they're going to get ferocious. There's a lot of evidence that he's suppressed. There are documents that he's suppressed. There is Bolton's book, which he's trying to suppress. So evidence is going to come out of his wrongdoing, and it's going to hurt him. It's something that the Republicans really kicked down to the voters. So it is on the ballot in 2020 in November. So this issue is not going to go away.
I want to read you something that Marco Rubio tweeted. Colonel Vindman wasn't fired. He's still an Army officer. He was assigned to NSC to serve the president, who has a right to have people he trusts on his staff. Sondland was a political appointee. No point in having a political appointee who no longer has the president's confidence. John, what's your reaction to that?
Well, you know, that certainly doesn't apply to Vindman's brother, who did not testify and who is guilty by association by blood. so, you know, that's the kind of silly talk that a guy like Rubio will use to justify this kind of action. He knows as well as anybody that it's revenge, that he was a vital person on the National Security Council, that they're in the process of hollowing out the National Security Council. They're removing maybe 50, 60, 70 people who they have slight suspicions might be leaks or might not be Trump supporters. So they don't care what's going to happen, and they're gutting one of the vital processes that assists the president. If Trump is out in November, the next president is going to have great difficulty with the damage he's doing at both the State Department and the National Security Council.
Do you think that, I mean, as things stand, there's going to be a chilling effect around the president right now in which people who may see anything that they consider, you know, worrying, or if they see wrongdoing, that they would be hesitant to come forward?
Well, he hasn't gotten to the whistleblower yet. While Rand Paul may have read a name he thought was that of the whistleblower, it really hasn't gotten any public currency. Certainly the Chief Justice, as the presiding officer at the impeachment trial, shot down Rand Paul's question, which named allegedly the whistleblower. So there are people and there are protections still in place. I don't think that he has shut off all dissent. I don't think he's frightening everybody. It's kind of a hollow strength to show that you demand loyalty in this way and can't earn it out of respect.
John Dean, great to have you here as always. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.